A massive winter storm system is developing right now across the United States. And what makes this event particularly significant is not just its size, but its complexity. We are looking at a multi-day severe weather outbreak, record-breaking temperatures that will challenge over 250 different records, and then a dramatic shift to heavy snowfall across a wide swath of the country. This is the kind of weather pattern that demands our attention and our preparation. Over the next 15 minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly what is happening with our atmosphere, why this storm is developing the way it is, and most importantly, what you need to do to keep yourself and your family safe. At the 5-minute mark, we will dive into the day-by-day timeline. By minute 10, we will cover the regional impacts in detail. And before we finish, I will give you practical safety guidance that could quite literally save your life. Let me start by explaining the atmospheric pattern that is driving all of this weather chaos. Right now, our jet stream, that river of fast-moving air in the upper atmosphere that essentially steers our weather systems, is setting up in a very specific configuration. We have what meteorologists call a deep trough developing across the Rocky Mountains. Think of a trough as a dip, or a valley in the jet stream. When the jet stream dips southward like this, it allows cold air from Canada to spill down into the United States. But here is where it gets interesting. On the other side of that trough, we have what is called a ridge, which is basically a northward bulge in the jet stream, and that ridge is pumping historically warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up into the Midwest and Great Lakes. This setup creates what we call a baroclinic zone. That is a fancy meteorological term, but what it means in practical terms is that we have a very sharp temperature gradient, a battle zone if you will, between warm air and cold air. And when you have that kind of contrast, that is when storms can explode in intensity. The atmosphere does not like these sharp differences. It tries to equalize them. And the way it does that is through storms, through wind, through precipitation. What we are watching unfold is actually a series of storms, not just one. The first storm system is already forming across Arizona today. This initial system will bring a risk of severe weather tonight into Thursday across parts of the southern plains and into the mid-Mississippi Valley. We are talking damaging winds, large hail, and an isolated tornado threat. Some areas could even see snow with this first system. But that is just the appetizer. The main course arrives Thursday and Friday. After that initial shortwave trough moves through, we are going to see a much larger, much more powerful dip in the jet stream develop across the Rockies. And this is the storm that is going to bring widespread significant impacts. Severe weather across the lower Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley. Heavy snowfall to the Great Lakes, including Chicago. And on top of all of that, very high winds. This is not a storm that is going to impact just one region. This is a coast-to-coast weather event. Now, before we get into the specific day-by-day timeline, I want you to understand something about the temperatures we are going to experience. This is not typical January weather. By Thursday night, areas like Chicago, Indiana, and back into the lower Mississippi Valley will be as much as 40 degrees above average. 40 degrees. That is not a typo. Friday morning will be one of the warmest January mornings on record for much of Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. We are going to see over 250 different temperature records either broken or tied over the next 4 days. In Proverbs 22 verse 3, Scripture tells us, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it." This is wisdom speaking directly to our situation right now. God has given us the gift of meteorological science, the ability to see these storms coming days in advance. That is not something to take lightly. That is something to respond to with wisdom and preparation. Let me walk you through the timeline day by day, because understanding when impacts will occur in your area is critical for making good decisions. Today, Wednesday, most of the country will be relatively quiet during the afternoon hours. But overnight tonight, storms will begin to fire off across western Oklahoma and north-central Texas. Most of these storms will not develop until about 3 o'clock in the morning, so there is no need to stay up late waiting for them. Just make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather alerts. A weather radio, your phone, whatever works for you. By around 5 to 6 in the morning on Thursday, these storms will track across central Oklahoma. The biggest concerns will be damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour, quarter-size hail, and maybe a brief tornado. The tornado risk tonight is relatively low, but it is not zero. Thursday is when things really start to escalate. By Thursday morning, we will have a storm system forming across Kansas, Colorado, and Texas. Showers and thunderstorms will initiate across areas near Wichita Falls, Texas, back through Oklahoma City, just south of Kansas City. Damaging winds, large hail, and maybe a low-end tornado threat will all be on the table. But Thursday afternoon is when this storm system will really kick into gear. As it moves into Missouri during the afternoon, it will create a threat of severe weather on the south and east side of that low-pressure system from St. Louis back into northeastern Texas, even near Dallas-Fort Worth. Now, I want to be honest with you about the forecast for Thursday. I am not super confident about the severe weather potential on Thursday because there will be a lack of instability. Instability is basically storm fuel. It is what gives thunderstorms their energy. But we will have a lot of wind shear, which is the change in wind speed and direction with height. If we are able to get any mature supercells developing, the tornado risk is definitely on the table. The best chance for any storms to actually organize and become severe will be closer to 6, 7, or 8 o'clock Thursday evening. For those of you in the Midwest and Ohio Valley, Thursday is going to be a pretty rainy day for most areas in Iowa and Illinois. We will be watching for a few storms to try to fire up during the mid to late afternoon hours. Again, the models are not showing a whole lot of organization with these storms until around or just after sunset. That would be the best chance for any storms to actually thrive and perhaps produce an isolated tornado. Thursday night into Friday morning, it will remain pretty stormy across the Mississippi Valley. If you have any plans to go to sleep early Thursday night and you are in western Tennessee or southeast Missouri, you might have some trouble with all the thunder that will be happening. This is also when that record-breaking warmth will be at its peak. Chicago, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, all experiencing temperatures 40 degrees above average, 57 degrees in Cincinnati for a morning low. That is absolutely abnormal for January 9th. Friday is the day we need to pay the most attention to for severe weather. This is when conditions become most favorable for significant severe weather, primarily in the lower Mississippi Valley. If you are in Tennessee or Kentucky, it does not look like that much of a severe weather day. Any severe weather that does happen will probably be sometime closer to 10 or 11 o'clock, but I think it is mostly just going to be a lot of rain for Tennessee and Kentucky. But if you are further south in areas like southeast Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama, you really need to be on alert for the threat of severe storms on Friday. Friday morning will feature a few showers and thunderstorms. Severe weather should start to increase as we go into the afternoon. By around 3 to 4 o'clock, there will likely be several supercells trying to form in the lower Mississippi Valley. Here is the challenge with Friday. We could see what we call overconvection, which basically means there are just too many storms out there to really have any sort of legitimate organization with discrete supercells. But if we do end up seeing more discrete activity during the afternoon on Friday, we definitely could see a low-end threat of a tornado outbreak across the lower Mississippi Valley. This also includes areas back over in East Texas. If you are north of Houston in East Texas, I definitely would not rule out an isolated tornado during the afternoon. During Friday evening, these storms will continue. We will likely have a messy area of thunderstorms continuing into the overnight hours across Alabama and Mississippi. This raises concerns for a possibility of flooding. We definitely have to watch for that anywhere from Huntsville back toward areas near Lake Charles, Louisiana. Saturday, these storms will continue to move east with mainly a wind threat. But another isolated tornado risk cannot be ruled out in Georgia, maybe Alabama, or even southern Mississippi. But Saturday is also when the story starts to shift dramatically from severe weather to winter weather. Let me explain what is happening here, because this is where the meteorology gets really fascinating. As this low-pressure system moves over the Great Lakes on Saturday, cold air will wrap around the backside of the storm. This is typical for these types of systems. The counterclockwise circulation around a low-pressure system in the northern hemisphere means that winds on the west and north side of the low will be coming from Canada, bringing that cold air with them. Light to moderate snow will drape parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes on Saturday. If you are in Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, even parts of Iowa, you could see snowfall accumulations of 4 to 8 inches with localized higher amounts possible. This is a wide swath of accumulating snow we are talking about. Freezing rain is on the table back over in Ontario, and we could see snow as far south as the Texas Panhandle and western Oklahoma. By late Saturday into early Sunday, this winter storm will make its way out of the United States, but the cold air will stick around. The beginning of next week will continue to feature below-average temperatures across much of the Great Lakes, the Northern Plains, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. This pattern could lead to an Arctic blast sometime around the middle of January. Now, let me shift gears and talk about what you need to do to prepare, because all of this information is meaningless if we do not translate it into action. If you live anywhere in the path of the severe weather threat, the first thing you need to do is make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather alerts. A weather radio is ideal because it will wake you up in the middle of the night if a tornado warning is issued. Your phone is good as a backup, but do not rely solely on it. Phones can malfunction, batteries can die, cell towers can go down in severe weather. Know where your safe place is in your home. If you live in a house, that safe place is an interior room on the lowest floor, away from windows. A bathroom. A closet. A hallway. If you live in a mobile home, you need to have a plan to get to a more substantial structure. Mobile homes, even those that are tied down, are simply not safe in tornadoes. Have emergency supplies ready. Water, non-perishable food, flashlights, batteries, a first aid kit. If the power goes out, you want to be able to take care of your family for at least 72 hours without outside help. For those of you in the path of the winter weather, preparation looks a little different but is equally important. If you are going to see snow and ice on Saturday, now is the time to stock up. Go to the grocery store today or tomorrow. Do not wait until Friday when everyone else is panicking. Get your essentials now. Check your home heating system. Make sure it is working properly. If you use a fireplace or wood stove, make sure you have adequate fuel. If the power goes out, you need to have a backup way to heat at least one room of your house. Protect your pipes. When temperatures drop suddenly after a period of warmth, pipes are particularly vulnerable to freezing and bursting. Let faucets drip slightly overnight when temperatures are below freezing. Open cabinet doors under sinks to allow warm air to circulate around pipes. If you must travel during this storm, and I strongly encourage you to avoid travel if at all possible, make sure your vehicle is prepared. You need an emergency kit in your car: blankets, water, snacks, a flashlight, a phone charger, a small shovel, sand, or cat litter for traction. If you slide off the road and get stuck, these items could save your life. Let me talk about driving in winter weather for just a moment, because this is where a lot of people make critical mistakes. The posted speed limit assumes ideal road conditions. On ice and snow, ideal conditions do not exist. You need to cut your speed by at least 15 to 20 miles per hour below the limit, more if visibility is reduced. Why? Because your stopping distance on ice is 3 to 9 times longer than on dry pavement. Physics does not care how confident you are in your driving skills. Increase your following distance dramatically. On dry roads, you want 3 seconds between you and the car in front of you. On ice, you need 6 to 8 seconds, maybe more. And here's the most important thing: no sudden movements. No hard braking, no quick acceleration, no jerking the steering wheel. Smooth and slow is the way you drive on ice. In 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, Paul writes, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." I am not trying to scare you with all this information. I am trying to equip you. Fear paralyzes. Wisdom prepares. You have power over your situation through preparation. Let me bring this back around and summarize the key points one more time, because this information is critical to understand. Today and tonight, we have a severe weather threat developing across the southern plains. Overnight storms in Oklahoma and Texas with damaging winds, large hail, and an isolated tornado risk. Thursday, the storm system intensifies as it moves through Missouri and the Midwest. Severe weather threat from St. Louis back to Dallas-Fort Worth. Best timing for storms is Thursday evening, 6 to 8 p.m. Friday is the most significant severe weather day. Lower Mississippi Valley, including Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and East Texas, all under threat for severe thunderstorms with all hazards on the table, including tornadoes. Timing is mid-afternoon into evening. Saturday, the focus shifts to winter weather. 4 to 8 inches of snow possible from Texas through the Midwest into Michigan. Cold air wraps around the backside of the system. Record-breaking temperatures throughout this event. Over 250 records likely to fall across the eastern two-thirds of the country Thursday through Saturday. The practical steps you need to take. Multiple ways to receive alerts. Know your safe place. Emergency supplies ready. If winter weather is coming to your area, stock up now, not Friday. Protect your pipes. Prepare your vehicle if you must travel. Winter storms and severe weather have a way of reminding us of our dependence, not just on preparation and planning, but on community and on faith. Check on your neighbors, especially elderly neighbors who might need help preparing. Share information with people who might not be watching the weather closely. These acts of kindness matter. They reflect something deeper than just good citizenship. They reflect the character of what it means to love our neighbors as ourselves. This storm system will impact millions of people over the next several days. Some will see severe weather. Some will see heavy snow. Some will see both. But all of us have the opportunity to respond with wisdom, with preparation, and with care for one another. That is what gets us through these events together. I will continue to monitor this situation closely and provide updates as conditions develop. Stay safe, stay prepared, and may God bless you and keep you through this storm.